Welcome, everyone, to the story He Never Considered Himself a Religious Man, only a man born inside a religious language. He grew up in a house where Jesus was a word like bread or Sunday or breath, always around, never argued about. Crosses on walls, not out of fear, just tradition. Grace before dinner, not out of devotion, just momentum. He knew every verse drilled into children, but he didn't believe any of it. Not really. He believed in homework, football games, and the visible world. But starting around 12, he discovered something else. The human appetite for what science cannot name. He devoured stories, possession cases, exorcism reports, government files, hauntings, conspiracies. Not because he trusted them, because he wanted one of them to be true. He wanted evidence. He wanted the invisible to finally lose its anonymity. For years, nothing answered. No voices at 3 a.m., no shadows at the foot of the bed, no cold drafts, no whispers, no visitations. Faith didn't find him. Darkness didn't either. He waited, and nothing. He became convinced. Either nothing exists, or it avoids him. Then, around his 15th year, life tried to hand him a house. It was supposed to be the upgrade home, the one his family would grow old inside. Cheap because of its past, a fire, a dead child, a damaged reputation with the locals. His parents brushed off the story. Insurance claims and grief don't make ghosts. On the day they toured it, sunlight made the house look harmless. Beige carpets, new paint, the kind of silence that feels like potential, not threat. They walked room to room. Nothing moved. But when they drove away, his mother spoke only one sentence, so calm it felt rehearsed. There was a little girl on the landing upstairs. She was watching us the entire time. She didn't shake. She didn't dramatize. She said it like weather. He didn't believe her, not because it was impossible, but because if it were true, he would have seen it too. They didn't buy that house, not because of the ghost, but because of termites. That felt almost comedic to him, reality defeating superstition, as usual. But he didn't know yet that life hadn't spared them. It only delayed the encounter and changed its address. They moved into another house, ordinary, safe-looking, with a history that seemed medically clean. Until the former owner knocked one evening to drop off mail and said, with absolute casualness, "My mother died in that bedroom. She still visits sometimes. Don't worry, she's kind." Again, that tone. Americans speak about death like a weather update when they have already made peace with it. That was the part that bothered him. Not the ghost, but how lightly people said the word still. He didn't witness anything in the beginning. Life went on. School, basement video games, late-night internet, adolescence. The world remained rational, predictable, until the neighbors became friends. And during a backyard barbecue, they learned something that rearranged everything. That same neighbor family had once lived in the haunted house with the dead girl, and they confirmed every rumor his mother had spoken out loud. Not only did the little girl appear frequently, but an older male spirit occupied the house too, and he was violent. Their oldest son, 21 at the time, still could not sleep with the lights off while living there. That was the first time something inside the boy, not his brain, but something deeper, did not laugh. He didn't accept it, not yet, but he stopped dismissing, because suddenly, stories were no longer stories. They had faces, addresses, witnesses with names, taxes, jobs, and normal lives. The invisible world had stepped 1 inch closer, not inside his room yet, but inside his possibility. And possibility is always how hauntings begin. After hearing confirmation from the very person who once lived in that haunted house, something inside him shifted. Not enough to be called belief, but enough to dismantle absolute denial. And the moment a person stops denying, they begin to see. He started searching more intentionally. Not the kind of candlelit seance at midnight, but observation. The dog's behavior, the unnatural cold on the staircase, the knocks on the wall without cause, the things he used to rationalize with logic. Now he no longer explained them away. He listened. And like every haunting, the first thing that pulls the door toward the other side isn't the dead, it's the living. When he was around 14 or 15, he brought home a Ouija board. Not out of stupidity, but arrogance. He believed if the other world existed, it should prove itself to someone rational like him, not to people afraid of the dark. He played it alone, in the basement. The kind of thing that would make any pastor faint. But to him, back then, it was just an experiment. Nothing happened the first night. The planchette only drifted through the same childish script of every amateur seance. Who's here? What are you? Did anyone die in this house? Silence answered everything. But nothing in the metaphysical world begins with a scream. It begins with ownership of the mind. And once a person gives an invitation, the rules change. From that day, small things began to appear. Subtle enough to be dismissed if you're not standing in the right state of attention. The basement light flickering, even though the wiring had just been replaced. The dog growling at a bare corner of the wall, then backing away in fear. Items placed in straight lines, slightly shifted overnight. A 3-knock pattern behind the bookcase, repeating at the exact same hour for consecutive nights. At first, these were like faint replies from the universe to an invitation not yet answered. He liked it. He treated them as first evidence. This is the most dangerous phase of any haunting. Not when the victim is afraid, but when the victim befriends the dark. Then one night as he sat in the basement, no Ouija, no summoning, he saw the thing he believed he would have to see if any of this were real. A figure. Not a blur, not a shadow. Clear as a living person. A woman in a pale pink dress walked past his doorway. Slow, deliberate, unmistakably real. So real that his brain didn't even categorize it as supernatural. He bolted upstairs, only to find his mother sitting in the living room, unmoving. In that moment, he didn't scream, he didn't panic. He felt victory, he thought. So it is real, and it doesn't hurt anyone. That was the foundation of his mistake. He believed that anything wearing a human shape must also have a human nature, gentle or hostile like humans. But not everything that wears a human shape is human. After that, he became bolder and more confident. He stopped maintaining any boundary. He stayed in the basement more often. He left himself open like an unlocked broadcast channel. And darkness, once it finds a door open, never walks through alone. The intensity didn't change, only the boundary did. At first, it only claimed space, the lights, the sounds, the cold. But at a very specific point, it began to claim matter. The first marker was the closet upstairs. That door had a suitcase wedged against it. It could not open on its own. And yet one morning, the family woke to find the closet wide open, the suitcase untouched. No one explained it. No one pretended not to understand. Then came the children's toys turning on at night, toys with no batteries, packed away in a bin. One of them laughed, a warped, metallic, broken lung kind of laugh. The dog, gentle to a fault, stood at the staircase and growled. Not a bark, a growl. The kind a dog uses only when it sees something that does not belong to this world. On another night, the downstairs TV switched on. No picture, only static. And the volume climbed and climbed and climbed until the windows trembled, while the power cord lay unplugged on the floor. That was when the house stopped being a house with activity. It became a place with an unpaying resident. But there was still a distance, until the first night something touched the bed. He woke not from a sound, not from cold, but from the sensation of weight lowering into the mattress at his feet like a hand or a knee pressing down. The dip was slow, deliberate, inch by inch. Everyone was asleep. No pets were upstairs. He didn't scream. He didn't move. He lay still and listened to that invisible weight crawl toward him, like a living thing, climbing a living body. That was the night he understood this had moved beyond observation. It had entered the realm of contact, and once something crosses into the right to touch a bed, it does not stop there. After the night the mattress sank, nothing ever returned to the level of just observation. It took one more step, as if it was measuring his reaction. The first marker was the arm being lifted in sleep. He woke not from sound, not from cold, but from the tension in his shoulder. When his eyes opened, he saw his own arm being raised off the mattress, slowly, steadily, like someone was checking whether he was still asleep or already aware. The arm hovered for a moment, then dropped back down. No slam, no theatrics. No one believed him until it happened to his younger brother. One night, a loud thud came from the next room. When he ran in and turned the light on, he found his brother pressed into a corner, face bleached of all color. The boy stuttered that his arm had just been lifted, as if someone was gripping his wrist and pulling upward, and he had panicked so violently he ran straight into the wall. From that night on, no one in the house called these coincidences. Then came the cold points, not drafts, not temperature drops, but blocks of air so brutally cold they cut into bone marrow. They did not move like air, they stood like entities. Passing through one made his eyes water like ammonia had been sprayed, and his spine contract with the instinct reserved for enemies. After that, the closet door, the one that had been barricaded, began bursting open in broad daylight, right in front of him. No wind, no tremor, just intent. Then footsteps in an empty room. Adult weight, heavy, decisive. Not the kind your brain invents. But the real shift from haunting to threat didn't come from noise or objects. It came from being watched at skin distance. The kind of distance where, if you turned your head slowly, your forehead would brush someone else's face. But no matter how slow you turned, there was nothing there. From that stage forward, insomnia wasn't caused by fear. It was caused by a body that refused to relax. The muscles stayed in a silent combat state for hours, waiting for the next contact. Sleep came in fractured strips of 15, 20 minutes, the kind soldiers get in trenches. Never true surrender. And, as in every real case of haunting, once one side weakens first, the other side moves to the next phase. And the next phase is never exploratory. That night he slept in the basement, the little dog curled up at the foot of the sofa. Everything was so quiet, you could hear the ventilation fan turning. No Ouija, no calling, no provocation. Then the dog suddenly sprang up, fur bristling, growling as if someone were standing right in front of it. Seconds later, it bolted, abandoning its owner, sprinting up the stairs as if being hunted. The moment the animal left, the air changed. Not in a visual sense, but in an animal sense. Like standing inside the cage of a starving beast with the latch just shut. And then it happened. A force pressed down on his chest and shoulders. Not sleep paralysis, not hallucination. This was real, physical pressure, crushing him into the sofa as if something were trying to grind his bones into the cushions. He tried to inhale, but nothing entered. What spread through him wasn't fear, it was total hatred, a kind of hostility that does not belong to anything human. He bolted up and ran upstairs, but in the family room, no one could wake. He shook them, called loudly, slammed their shoulders. They slept as if their power switch had been cut. He ran back to his younger brother's bed, and the thing followed upstairs. A second time, he was pinned to the mattress. No visible shape, but it felt like an invisible arm was pinning his whole body down, intentionally repeating the act until his mind would fracture. By the third time he was pinned, his body could no longer fight, only his mind remained. And in that absolute collapse, he remembered a fragment of knowledge from childhood. Not belief, not faith, just a memory of a command. He forced his mouth to open and said, not screamed, not pleaded, just uttered the name Jesus. And in that exact instant, not after a few seconds, not after a minute, but immediately, everything stopped, as if someone had cut the power line to the nightmare. No more pressure, no more hateful air, no more sound, no more phenomena. Not that night, and not ever again for the next 15 years. The family later took the Ouija board outside to burn. They soaked it in gasoline. It would not burn. The fire consumed everything around it except the board. They eventually threw it in the garbage. Later he learned his biological father had gone through a nearly identical haunting years before he was born, and it also ended only when he called on Jesus. 2 generations, 2 endings stopped by the same word. He does not claim this is theological proof. He only says, it is the only evidence he has ever had that he could not refute. His mental state was medically confirmed normal. No pathology, no delusion, no disorder. And the moment of cessation aligned exactly, to the second, with the moment he spoke the name of Jesus. If something in the dark once had the right to touch this world, it lost that right in that exact moment.